All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to a regular Board of Selectmen's meeting for January 3rd, 2023. Happy New Year. We've got our full board present. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A reminder, if at any point during the meeting an agenda item reveals you may have a conflict of interest, please disclose that to the Board of Selectmen and we can proceed accordingly. Joe, any adjustments to the agenda?
There are two, Madam Chair. Attorney Tibbetts is not feeling well, will not be present tonight. So she won't be here at number 3. Second item will come under number 7. I learned this morning that the new plow truck will arrive again this week. So I'll be looking for authorization to sign the paperwork associated with that.
Alrighty. All right, given Alyssa Tibbetts is on the agenda, looking for a motion to table until, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The one?
That was my question. Just in February in general, or?
I believe the first meeting in February, Madam Chair. I think that's the 6th.
Motion to table Alyssa Tibbetts, tip draft 7th of February 6th, 2023.
Ethan's motion.
Second.
And Sam seconds. All right, well, we look forward to Attorney Tibbetts joining us in February. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Moving on to number 4, review and approve meeting minutes. First up is December 5th, 2022, Board of Selectmen regular meeting.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve the minutes from December 5th, 2022 with any additions or corrections.
It's Ethan's motion. Oh my goodness, we'll give it to after this time.
Sam and I are going to do it all.
It's all right, after seconds. Are there any suggested corrections or questions? Are there any questions? Okay, all those in favor? And that's unanimous. Next up is December 15th, Board of Selectmen Chapter 38 workshop. Notes.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve the December 15th, 2022 health workshop on chapter 38 minutes with any additions or corrections.
So that's Ethan's motion.
Second.
After seconds. I believe that was the meeting I couldn't attend, so I would be listed as absent under that, and because of that, I will abstain from voting when the time comes. Are there any suggested edits? All right, all those in favor? That's 4 and 1 abstain. And then we've got a December 19th Board of Selectmen regular meeting.
And motion to approve December 19th, 2022 regular Board of Selectmen meeting.
Sam's motion.
Second.
And Ethan seconds. Are there any suggested corrections with December 19th? All those in favor? That's unanimous. And opposed? Abstain. Ethan's abstained. Thank you. That takes care of number 4. Moving on to number 5. Any public to speak on a non-agenda item?
Oh, sorry. I looked mine in the same packet.
Oh, sure. No worries. No public to speak. I don't think we have anything from boards and committees. So moving on to consent items, section 7. We have an event permit application for the Rangeley Pond Hockey Festival. Need a motion.
the motion to approve the event permit application for the Rangeley Pond Hockey Festival, date of event February 3rd to the 5th, 2023.
Becky's motion,
Second.
and Sam seconds. And we welcome Karen Seaman, who submitted the application. So anything new this year or,
Nope,
okay, just,
nothing new. I guess I have a question. I used to work with Keith in getting the picnic tables and trash barrels. What would I be working with this year?
that's a good question for our town manager.
I'll be your point of contact.
Okay, great.
Just call me or Tracy, and we'll get you what you need.
All right, awesome.
Super. Yes, Shelley.
I'm gonna throw it out there because it was such a Facebook hit. How do you make sure that no one's gonna be fishing in the hole by your ponds?
Well, I think with our Facebook frenzy, there might be fewer people trying to fish that area. But it is a concern. And on behalf of the skating club, which I'm the treasurer of now, and pond hockey, I was wondering if you might entertain the idea of possibly working with us to work with the state to see if we could deem the front half of that pond as a non-ice fishing area. I think we could prove that because of the skating rink, the ice kiting that takes place, the ice biking that takes place in that area, that it is truly for that type of recreation, and the back half of the pond possibly only for ice fishing. Because last year, that's what ruined our pond hockey festival, was ice fishing on our ice rinks,
Oh my
and
gosh.
flooded them last year. I mean, we had really warm weather, but once they started ice fishing,
Yeah.
it just started to swell. So I didn't know.
It seems like
if-
more are coming and are on there before there wasn't anybody.
Right now, and it's not really good ice fishing there anyway. It's only like 2 to 3 feet of water. But I didn't know if you knew anybody at the state I could contact to see if we could meet with them, or if you would even thought that was a ridiculous idea. I don't know.
No clue. I mean.
Because it was very dangerous for the kids.
Well, it would certainly be inland fisheries and wildlife. I don't know if I mean, the strong office is the regional office
Yeah.
for our area. So I mean, perhaps a call there to even see if it's possible, if they even will segregate a designated approved ice fishing water body.
Because it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, for kids, like I said, those ice fishing holes start this size, but as more people come onto the pond and push the ice down, it pushes the water up. I mean, I would really hate to see some small child
Mhm.
get seriously injured because of those holes.
Yeah. But that's the only thing I can think of is, you know, we've got that strong regional headquarters. I don't know if anyone has any other suggestions or. But
I don't know if
definitely,
there's any way to gate it off, I mean, because
No, but if we could.
he didn't have to
just
move
post it,
because it's not illegal.
right,
So if
Just
you,
post it, like, just, yeah, it's like, this is
if
designated.
you just like
for-
have like the ropes, but then you can't have ropes for snowmobilers. So how do you mark it?
well, I mean, maybe you could just designate this, you know, this is pond hockey, you know, location here, you know, just anything to flag it as something a little different.
right.
Or a
But-
sign at the end that says pond hockey ends here. I don't know.
Could you fence it in?
I'm not sure we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm even thinking just, you know, for the future, it would be nice, because if they did start to ice fish, we could call Maddie and she could come down and say, you're not allowed to be here on this side of the pond.
Right,
I think Cindy's right to call it inland fisheries first. I would be more comfortable with supporting or not supporting something after I heard what they had to say.
yeah,
Because there's other feathers that could be ruffled besides the kids skating rinks and the pond hockey festival, being that we want to promote outdoor recreation, and Rangeley is known as a sportsman kind of town, whereas the only public boat access to that pond is right there. It's the easiest access for ice fishing.
Oh, sure.
I personally don't ice fish, so it doesn't
Yeah.
affect me one way or the other, but
Mhm.
I think the call to inland fisheries first to see what their stance is.
Yeah, but they still allowing them access right behind classic provisions I mean, that's where we all go. We ice fish out there all the time.
Sure, okay, I
And we
guess I
just
misunderstood you there.
Head straight back.
You said back half, so I'm thinking half a pond.
Yeah, the backside of Haley Pond near the logging museum. I mean, that's where all the fishermen usually fish.
Sure, no, and I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, given Inland Fisheries puts out the publication, they're the ones that identify the, the ice fishing water bodies. Be a place to start.
Yeah, I didn't know if there are any ponds that they did that on actually.
Good question.
But, and maybe promoting the fact that there are 5 more ponds / lakes in the area. Where people can fish, which they only opened up last year, so that hasn't been a big splash. You know, I mean, we went to Moon Lake last year to ice fish, we had great success there, but there's several other places besides Haley
Right,
Pond that
yeah.
you could do it, so. Putting that blast out there too, but
Well, it's a good question. It's, I mean, the Pond Hockey Festival brings, a lot of different types of people, different group in town that.
and that skating rink is really valuable
It is.
to us as a community.
Yeah, because it's at night too, because the lights light it up. I see
Yeah.
people there all the time, like on vacations and stuff.
Yeah, and there'll be winter cruises going on again this year.
Yeah.
All sorts of fun stuff.
Absolutely. All right,
But I will start with Inland Fisheries. as
Okay.
suggested, and let you know what they say.
sounds good. Thank you. Any further? Yes, Mark.
If Karen inquires, would the board's support, and if IF&W was so inclined to make a non-ice fishing recreational area on Haley Pond for the skating club, the pond hockey, the winter palooza, all those events, with the select board support?
I would wait to hear what Inland Fisheries had to say before I supported or not supported anything.
I mean, we tend to, we approve all of those events.
Yeah.
There's been no reason in the past not to, so. I think
Thank you.
I just happened to realize that I didn't say pending liability, proof of liability insurance with my motion.
Oh, yeah, I can have Brad send that.
So I need to amend my motion.
Okay,
Sorry.
so amended,
Second,
and
Yeah,
so,
please forget that.
Oh, there's something.
I'll get Brad to get that out for me.
all right, is there any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you for coming, Karen, and yeah, bringing us up to date. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you for your volunteering.
Yes.
Welcome to do this. Thank you.
Moving right along, we've got the AvCog Climate Resiliency Resolution. So that they've we have a pre-printed draft of this, Joe, a fill in the blank for Rangeley. And we've been presented that document already. So we need a motion to adopt this AvCog Climate Resiliency Resolution.
I make a motion to adopt the new AvCog climate resiliency resolution.
Sam's motion
second.
and Ethan seconds. Is this, so Joe, is this something that is, just an internal, we're pledging to follow through with, what has been laid out? It's just part of the AvCog requirements for.
Correct, Madam Chair. This is a pledge to follow through with the program. 2 weeks from tonight, there'll be a public workshop for the public to come hear about the program, provide some input about what items they might like to see the town pursue in terms of efficiency, whether it's lighting projects or other things like that. This is the board's pledge to that program to follow through with it. We support it. It will, we will prioritize projects within the next 3 months as part of the resolution. You designate, I would recommend you designate me to coordinate the planning implementation of those programs with AvCog once they're put in place. That's the purpose of the resolution.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe? Shelley?
Is there any way to put a title at the top? It just seems like it's a document. It doesn't really describe what it is unless you're reviewing the whole thing. You know, usually they put some kind of title at the top.
Okay.
Mainly climate resiliency resolution.
Yeah.
So add heading, so at least,
Just so if I'm looking through my file, I'm sort of going, oh my gosh, what is this? So I
Gotcha.
read the whole thing.
there. Ethan's got it.
Check it through.
Any other comments or questions from the board? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Personnel policy team update. Joe?
Chair, we met a couple of weeks ago now, I think, with Thompson and Schaefer and Tracy and I talked about the existing Article 21 of personnel policy, which covers wage a little bit, and primarily we talked about the draft policy that the board has seen a month or so ago, a month and a half ago, that is basically the document from Franklin County. We talked about how we would edit that. We went through, basically got to the back page of it, made some edits, and the next meeting is this week. A couple of days from now, we'll begin to talk about how do we, the companion document to that salary administration policy, the text of the policy, the companion documents, the grades, and then the length of service. So there's a table. We touched on that as we referenced it through the document. We're going to kind of dive into that document, meaning the table, and figure out how do we equitably plug in the non-union employees into that table and talk about the towns that you've so far have provided as comparable towns, talk about how to put those numbers together. In reviewing that, it occurred to me that I would not find it a useful exercise for me to have to follow the current Article 21 and then also continue to work on the salary policy. So I thought it would be useful to have the board at least consider suspending that Article 21 while we work on the new salary administration policy. And then, of course, when this document is through the committee or through the team, it would come back to the board for the full board for discussion, consideration, and approval. And that would include the table that would have salaries prior to being plugged into the budget. So the board would have a chance to talk about those prior to being a budget item.
All right, so before I go to the board, just for any questions, so basically you need a motion to suspend the current Article 21 while the new draft is in progress.
Please, Madam Chair.
So the other parts of the personnel policy, have there been any reviews or any input from our attorney as to what may be missing from personnel policy or any other?
We've been focused on this item
Okay,
so far. I do have an update. So this is freestanding for the personnel policy, but we do have a working update of the sexual harassment policy that's kind of a sidebar to that. I do have some thoughts on the evaluation, performance evaluation section of the policy. Right now it's built to kind of balance off from Article 21, saying that the manager is responsible for doing all of these at a certain period of time. It's more typical to do those on anniversary dates, so that the manager isn't having to do 30. But no, that hasn't been through the attorney. That's just one item. we're focusing currently on the wage, salary administration policy.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Sean?
So if we suspend Article 21, does that mean it still has, it stays as it is? With the mix up of misunderstanding the interpretation of it?
I think until Madam Chair, until we have a replacement, some replacement language, my recommendation is to suspend that so that the expectation is that I'm not expected to implement that while we work on this other one. The goal is to get the other one to a point where the board will approve it and then replace 21 with this new language that we're working on. And the non-union folks know what's happening, because they're aware of it. And discourse about it, anybody that's unhappy with that.
Anything else, Sean? Any other questions? All right, so town manager is looking for a motion to suspend Article 21 as it currently reads.
I'll make that motion.
It's Ethan's motion
Second.
and Ethna's seconds. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Moving right along, the last, no, we've got two more. The IMC Franklin County MOU. So it's next in section 7, a memorandum of understanding. So Joe, if you want to touch on this.
Certainly, Madam Chair. This is a program that the dispatch center and all the law enforcement, fire service folks in Franklin County use to communicate. There's an update, and then there's a subscription fee, and then maintenance. So there are 3 items that make up the total of $8,228.27. The deadline for complete payment is December 31, 2024. The county's pretty flexible in how we pay them. But this is a kind of a housekeeping thing. It's an update of the system. And the county is asking that each of the folks that use that system pay a percentage to help them offset the cost. And they didn't want to take this on without knowing that the other folks, the towns, are going to commit to making those contributions to the county over the next year, almost 2 years now, between now and Wednesday.
So under what part of the budget does this get entered?
So primarily the police department, I'm going to talk to the chief about it. I've run it by him, but we got to sit down and look at where the most of that will come from. What I'm going to attempt to do is see if we can pay a portion of that this year, and then budget for the remainder in either next year or the next 2 years, depending on what the rest of the budget looks like. But I'll see if there's a way we can pay at least a portion of it this year.
If if it's deemed that fire rescue bears a brunt of it, then we need to make sure it's part of what's billed to plantations and townships.
Yep.
Any other questions for Joe?
I have a question.
Yes, Mark.
So the county didn't think they already collected enough money from the town to just pay it out of the existing funds that they have? Or the American Rescue Plan money, or that they think they gotta hit the towns up again? And I'm just wondering if there's been any discussion about other sources of income other than just asking the towns to scratch out a check.
Well, it looks like, I mean, they do indicate that this has been partially paid for with the county's allocation of funds from their ARPA pool. So I guess the commissioners, felt that the towns.
They didn't
would pick
want to
up.
fund the whole thing.
That's what's disclosed here, is that a portion has been paid out of the county ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know where, we pay dearly.
We do, and you would think that every time they make an improvement, they don't ask for more money, that. How much did we give them last year, $500,000,
Oh, far more than that.
600 and something, I think.
yeah, so
I think it was 700. Yeah, it was over 700,000.
700,000, yeah, so you would think that they could. solve that one to
Mm,
cover this and not ask us for more.
yeah, I guess this wasn't.
I
Yeah,
know it's not a huge sum, but it, just thinking behind it.
mhm. Shelley?
Which Mark brings up a good point. Is it just the town of Rangeley or are they charging the plantations as well?
The answer to that question.
Just gross.
Well, if the,
Can we ask for a breakdown? I mean, they asked us for a breakdown and how many calls are going to each unorganized townships that they pay the town to cover. Could we ask for the same thing to see what the breakdown is in that additional cost and how they calculated that cost to be ours?
You could, Madam Chair, certainly ask for that.
I make a motion that we do.
I make a second that we do.
okay, so,
Before we sign anything.
Yeah.
all right, so we will,
And
we do have a motion on the table. No, we
Or
don't.
discussion.
We were in discussion. Joe was explaining. Okay, yep, no motion on the table. Ethna's got a motion to request more information from Franklin County. And so I'm not sure I heard specifically as far as the breakdown as from what towns are being paying out their allocated amount for this.
Basically, the additional cost it's gonna cost and how they're filling out for the services.
Okay.
How they came up with the figure and how much everybody else is paying.
All right.
did you catch on that, Joe?
Mhm.
Thank you.
It would be nice if Bob could come and explain it to us.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, perhaps that could be, yep, we'd welcome Bob, our Bob Carlton, who is our representative on the 3-person county commission board. All right, so we have a motion and from Ethna, Ethan seconds. Is there any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And that's unanimous.
And that will not require us to table this until we get that answer back, or will it? So we need to motion it because it was a consent item. I mean, table it because it was a consent.
I thought you had tabled it because you wanted it.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Okay, so Ethna made it up,
I thought that's what you said at the beginning. Am I wrong? I didn't say it, but that works.
We interpreted that.
Yeah. That was my
Okay, all right,
interpretation.
so we're gonna, all right, so Ethna has made a motion to table the memorandum of understanding with Franklin County, and do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Ethna and Ethan, second. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Alrighty. Okay, and the last item under consent would be the adjustment to the agenda. Joe is looking for authorization to sign the paperwork in acceptance of the new plow truck being delivered to the town ranger.
Make a motion to authorize town manager to sign the newly purchased plow truck.
That's Ethan's motion.
Second.
And Sam seconds. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify that part of the process will involve me transferring ownership of the 2010 International and signing the title to these trucks. So when they bring the new one, they're going to drive the old one back. Just want to make sure that that's disclosed.
Okay. And you don't need that included in the motion, that's just a part of the transaction?
I would prefer to have it included in the motion.
Okay,
Okay, I amend my motion to allow Joe to transfer ownership of the previous vehicle and all the documents, including the title.
Ethan's amended motion, and Sam seconds, okay. Thank you, Joe. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right, that takes care of consent items. We don't have anything under correspondence. Under old business, we've got the TIF policy first reading that is being pushed off until Alyssa can be here to discuss the first draft. There is no new business. So under town manager report, first, we've got, we don't have any department head updates. We do have a, I'm not skipping things in under calendar, we've got the Aquatic Village DPI meeting, 5 p.m. on January 17th. And then Joe already referenced the ABCOG Climate Resiliency Workshop, 5:30 on January 17th. I want to make sure I have that on calendar. So we've got, just to back up a little bit, so our Board of Selectmen meeting on the 17th will begin at 5 with this Aquatic Village BPI, and then at 5:30 we'll move into the ABCOG Climate Resiliency Workshop, and then at 6 we'll move into our regular Board of Selectmen meeting. One other question I have on the calendar, Joe, is do we want to, so as far as setting public hearings for the short-term rental ordinance, what do we want? A draft first that we approve at a regular Board of Selectmen meeting, and then we move into scheduling public hearings?
Correct, Madam Chair. We're still, with the holidays, we're still trying to get the finishing touches on those couple of ordinances that we've been working on.
Okay,
So when we get the clean drafts of the ordinances, get a timeline also, and vote to schedule the public hearings.
okay. Thank you. Monthly financials have been provided on the website. We have got a sample of Paper Talks magazine in our packets, and a little trip down memory lane for some of those who grew up here in Rangeley. And then, Joe, you've got a notation here regarding several large trees been taken care of on Cary Road, so.
Correct, Madam Chair. Within the last year or so, it was a topic that came up in the boardroom. There were some hazard trees, some big pine trees. How it works is Got a few of those taken over, pushed over rather this summer, and then a few weeks ago, right before Christmas. Keith had set up some work with CMP. CMP had a last minute opening on a Friday, and called on a Thursday and said, can we take one of these big trees down by her head? So they sent a crew up and we hired a local outfit with a bulk truck to clean up after that. So for a couple $100, the town's contribution, we got that big hazard, dying or dead pine tree out of the way there at the corner Shore Road and Route 4. So just wanted to give you an update on that. I had thought to do that in a while, so I want to make sure I close the loop on that.
Yes.
So my question is that, if the tree is not on the town property, we have to take care of it?
So if a hazard tree is going to be limits of the road right away, the town most likely has a responsibility to eliminate the hazard. This tree, actually all of these trees were clearly within the limit and were deemed hazard trees by the road commissioner. They were leaning or dead or posing a threat. But if it were outside the limits, that's really kind of a private issue. Now, there's a little bit of gray area there where there might be some discussions, but you know, our responsibility really ends at the right of way.
I'm gonna keep that. So when, I'm gonna say Lucas Tree comes during the summer, and they're cutting the trees, so they go like this, way above the, around the lines and stuff like that. Is that something we pay for, or is CMP pay for that?
That's a CNC issue.
Okay, so are we paying for stuff that CMP should be paying for? I'm just asking because money's important.
So in this particular case, this was a hazard tree that could affect, if it fell and just fell directly at Shore Road and didn't touch any CMP lines, the whole burden of that would be on the town ranger. If it fell and nicked the CMP line, pretty much all on CMP. So from my experience, I don't know what CMP paid to have the hours come up, but from my experience, it's a pretty expensive project. So if we get out of it for less than $200 just hauling the tree and the brush away, I think that's a really good deal. Because again, the risk, I don't know, there's no calculation there, but if it had landed entirely in Shore Road, we would have had to spend thousands of dollars and people without access to that part of the road. So, I think that's money well spent. And then the other ones, Public Works just took care of that.
Any other questions, Shelley? Okay, so that takes care of the hazard trees in Aquasic. Then we get to the windstorm. And yeah, Joe has a notation in his notes here, but you might as well make a comment on how that all went and hardworking crews we've got.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's really what I want to highlight is that the staff, the fire department, Public Works, others that were involved in that, the volunteers, the fire department, other volunteers did a great job preparing. By preparing, I mean the day before and a few days before, but in a lot of cases, months and years before doing the training with incident command systems, NIMS, National Incident Management System. There's a lot that goes into that planning. An incident like that happens. I've seen it a couple times here in 5 years I've worked here. Fire department, which oversees EMA, will have a list of calls on the board, and they're dispatching. This goes there. There's trees and lines here. There's pumps that need. Somebody needs something pumped out here, so it's a really coordinated effort for that side of the response. And then there's also highway folks. The sewer department had a really long night that night. They had a power went out, obviously, and they had a generator that wouldn't start, so they had a little bit of trouble with that, but they worked hard to get back on. And once it comes back on, there's a period of catching up. So I just really wanted to point out that we put a lot of work in during the storm, during that time, but there's a lot of planning in the days before and then the months, in some cases years before they get ready for those responses. So And also, thank you to CMP, because they were on the ground when the wind started blowing, so that was good.
Yeah.
They were able to get the pump stations going. By 8 o'clock or so. Just want to thank those folks, our folks especially.
Huge thank you to them, with all the trees down and, it was, they had a lot of areas to flag before, or to, to mark with cones and hazards, because it wasn't just trees, there was water and it was a mess. So they very, very much appreciated all the work and the risk involved. I think that takes care of town manager report. Number 12, moving on to select board communication. Ethan, have you got anything?
I do not.
Okay. Shelley? Ethna?
I do not.
Okay. Sam? Right. I've got nothing. We've got an executive session scheduled. So need a motion to go into executive session.
I'm sure I make the motion we enter the executive session. MRSA Title 1, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, 56D for labor negotiation.
Ethan's motion.
Second.
Sam seconds. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right, we are out of executive session with no action to take, so we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ethna's motion.
Second.
Sam seconds. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Have a good evening.
Sign it, Ethan.